They said the Mirioka River was older than the village itself. Older than the tallest Iroko tree. Older than the first hut built by human hands. Older even than the names people used to call God. The elders of Umudiala believed the river had a soul, one that watched, listened, and remembered. By day it flowed calmly, clear and inviting. By night, it whispered secrets only the ancestors could understand. Children were warned never to swim in it after sunset. Women fetching water poured libation before dipping their calabashes. Men removed their caps when passing its banks. Because the river was not just water. It was alive. And on a night when the moon was red and the wind refused to blow, the river made a choice. The night of the birth. Rain fell heavily on Umudiala that night, as if the sky itself was in labor. In a small mud house at the edge of the village, Ekema, a young woman with sorrow permanently etched into her eyes, screamed in pain. This was her first child. She had prayed for years, through tears, fasting, and humiliation. Many had mocked her. A woman who cannot give birth is like a tree that bears no fruit, they said. Her husband, Obina, paced outside helplessly, sweat soaking his wrapper despite the cold rain. The old midwife, Mama Yuzo, muttered prayers as she walked. This child is stubborn, Mama Yuzo said, her voice shaking. She does not want to enter this world like other children. A loud thunder cracked the sky. At that exact moment, the Mirioka River overflowed its banks. The water glowed faintly, soft, bluish, unnatural. And then the child cried. But it was not the cry of an ordinary newborn. It was deep, powerful, echoing. Mama Yuzo froze. Ekema's scream died in her throat as she saw her child for the first time. The baby girl's eyes were open. Fully open. And shining like moonlight on water. Mama Yuzo staggered backward, her calabash falling from her hands. Choku gozi oni, she whispered. God have mercy. Outside, the rain stopped suddenly. Not gradually. Suddenly. As if someone had closed the sky. A name spoken by the river. By morning, news had spread through Umudiala. A child born during a river overflow. A child whose eyes opened at birth. A child who did not cry again after the first wail. The elders gathered beneath the Noku Okwe tree. Obina stood before them, holding his daughter, confusion and fear wrestling on his face. What is her name? The eldest elder, Enz Okari, asked. Before Obina could answer, a strange breeze swept through the gathering. The leaves rustled violently though the air was calm. From the direction of the river came a sound, soft, feminine, commanding. Chidinma. Everyone froze. Mama Yuzo collapsed to her knees. The river has named her, someone whispered. Enz Okari's face darkened. A river that names a child has marked her, he said gravely. This girl does not belong to this world alone. But Obina shook his head. She is my daughter, he said firmly. And she will grow as a human child. The elders exchanged uneasy glances. The river said nothing more. But it listened. The child who was different. Chidinma grew faster than other children. By age 5, she spoke with wisdom beyond her years. By 7, animals followed her. Goats strayed from their owners to sit near her. Birds gathered on trees when she passed. Even snakes slid away respectfully instead of attacking. And the river? The river reacted to her emotions. When Chidinma laughed, the water sparkled. When she cried, the current grew restless. Ekema noticed first. One evening, she found her daughter sitting by the riverbank, humming softly. The water around her feet glowed faintly blue. Chidinma! Ekema screamed. Have I not warned you never to go near the river alone? Chidinma turned calmly. Mama, she said gently, the river will never hurt me. Ekema pulled her away, fear gripping her heart. That night, Ekema dreamed. She stood waist deep in water, surrounded by women with flowing hair and eyes like the depths of the ocean. At their center sat a throne of shells and coral. A voice spoke. She is ours. You were only the vessel. Ekema woke up screaming. The forbidden love. Years passed. Chidinma became the most beautiful maiden in Umudiala. Men traveled from neighboring villages just to catch a glimpse of her. But her heart belonged to one man, Ifoni, a poor fisherman with calloused hands and a brave smile. He was not rich. He was not noble. But he loved her fiercely. They met often by the river, despite warnings. I will marry you, Ifoni promised one evening, holding her hands. Even if the whole village stands against us. Chidinma smiled sadly. You cannot fight what you do not understand, she said. Before Ifoni could ask what she meant, the river surged violently. A deep voice rumbled beneath the water. Ifoni stumbled back, terrified. Chidinma's eyes glowed. And for the first time, fear crept into her own heart. The priestess returns. That same week, Agodinwe, the feared priestess of Mirioka, returned to Umudiala after 20 years of exile. Her hair was white. Her eyes were sharp. Her walking stick was carved with symbols older than language. She took one look at Chidinma and bowed. My queen, she whispered. The village erupted in panic. What does she mean? Obina demanded. Agodinwe smiled slowly. The river goddess has come home, she said. And she has worn human flesh for too long. Thunder roared. The river rose. And Chidinma screamed, not in pain, but in awakening. The scream that tore from Chidinma's throat did not sound human. It echoed across Umudiala, bounced off the hills, and rolled into the depth of the Mirioka River like a command returning home. Women dropped their baskets. Children ran indoors. Men froze where they stood. The river answered. Its surface rose and fell as though breathing. Agodinwe straightened slowly, her old bones cracking, her lips stretched into a knowing smile. The goddess remembers herself, she said. Denial of a father. Obina stepped forward, rage burning through his fear. No, he shouted. My daughter is not a goddess. She is flesh and blood like the rest of us. Agodinwe turned her gaze on him. You lay with a woman, she said calmly. But the river planted the seed. The words struck Ekema like a spear. Lies, she screamed. I carried her for 9 months. I bled for her. Agodinwe nodded. And for that sacrifice, you were spared death. Silence fell. The priestess raised her staff and struck the ground once. Memories flooded the air. The night of Chidinma's birth replayed itself, not as human eyes had seen it, but as the river had remembered. Ekema collapsing by the river weeks before her pregnancy. Her tears soaking into the sand. Her whispered plea. Give me a child, even if she does not fully belong to me. The river had answered. Ifoni's defiance. Ifoni pushed through the crowd, his voice shaking but firm. She is not yours, he shouted at Agodinwe. She is a woman who loves and is loved. The priestess studied him. You are brave, she said. But bravery does not change divine law. Chidinma turned to Ifoni, tears streaming down her face. Run, she whispered. Please. Before he could move, the river roared. A massive wave surged forward, stopping inches from Ifoni's feet. The message was clear. He was not welcome. The bargain of the river. That night, the elders gathered again. Agodinwe spoke with the authority of centuries. The river goddess must return fully by the next full moon, she declared. If she refuses, Mirioka will take what it is owed. What does it want? Enz Okari asked carefully. Agodinwe's eyes glinted. Blood. Sacrifice. And obedience. Ikema fell to the ground, wailing. Obina's knees buckled. Chidinma stood silently, her hands trembling. "I will not let the village suffer because of me," she said finally. Agodinwe smiled. "The goddess speaks." Ifoni shouted, "No." But destiny had already begun to tighten its grip. Love against the gods. Later that night, Ifoni found Chidinma by the river. The moon reflected in her eyes, no longer fully human, no longer fully divine. "I will take you far away," he said urgently. "We'll leave before the moon rises again." Chidinma touched his face. "You cannot outrun the river," she whispered. The water behind her rose, forming shapes, women with flowing hair and hollow eyes. "The river mothers are calling me." Ifoni dropped to his knees. "Then let me drown with you." The river hissed angrily. Chidinma screamed, her voice commanding. "Enough." The water stilled instantly. The river mothers vanished. For the first time, Chidinma realized something terrifying. They obeyed her. The beginning of wrath. As the full moon approached, strange things happened in Umudiala. Crops withered overnight. Children fell ill without cause. The river flooded homes but spared Chidinma's family. Fear turned into resentment. "She is the cause," people whispered. "The goddess brings destruction." Stones were thrown at Obina's house. Ikema was spat on in the market. Ifoni was warned to stay away or face death. The love that once surrounded Chidinma turned bitter. And bitterness feeds anger. A choice no goddess should make. On the eve of the full moon, Agodinwe came for Chidinma. "Tonight," she said, "you will step into the river and never return as a human." Chidinma looked at her parents. At Ifoni. At the village that had raised her and now feared her. "If I go," she asked softly, "will you spare them?" Agodinwe nodded. "The river keeps its promises." Chidinma closed her eyes. Then Ifoni did the unthinkable. He ran into the river. The water swallowed him instantly. Chidinma screamed his name. The river laughed. Time stopped the moment Ifoni disappeared beneath the surface of Mirioka. The river, once gentle, now roared like a beast that had tasted blood and wanted more. "Ifoni!" Chidinma screamed, her voice breaking the night open. She ran forward, but Agodinwe's staff slammed into the ground. "Do not," the priestess warned. "If you follow him now, you will never return as yourself." Chidinma's knees hit the sand. The water churned violently, glowing with the same bluish light that had followed her since birth. Then the river spoke, not in whispers this time, but in a voice deep enough to shake the earth. "He is mine." A mother's curse. Ikema broke free from the women holding her and ran to the riverbank. "Take me instead," she cried, tearing her hair. "I begged you for a child, not for this pain." The river answered with silence. Then the current pushed something toward the shore. Ifoni's fishing net. Empty. Ikema collapsed, her scream echoing into the hills. Obine clenched his fist, his eyes burning. "If the gods demand this kind of sacrifice," he said through gritted teeth, "then they are wicked." Agodinwe turned slowly. "Careful, mortal," she said. "The river listens." Thunder growled in agreement. Descent into the depths. That night, Chidinma dreamed, but this was no ordinary dream. She was pulled beneath the river, deeper and deeper, yet she did not drown. Instead, she walked. The river floor opened into a vast underwater kingdom, palaces of coral and pearl, lit by an eerie, eternal glow. Women surrounded her, their bodies half human, half water. The river mothers. At the center sat a throne made of flowing water, and upon it rested a crown of light. Ifoni knelt before the throne. Alive. But changed. His eyes were distant, his skin marked with glowing symbols. Chidinma ran to him, but invisible hands held her back. A voice thundered through the realm. Love makes goddesses weak. The law of the river. The river mothers echoed her. You were born to rule, they said in unison. To punish arrogance. To balance the greed of humans. One stepped forward. The man you love crossed sacred boundaries. His life is payment. Chidinma's voice shook. Then take my power. Let him go. Laughter rippled through the waters. There is no goddess without sacrifice. The crown floated toward her. Accept us, and he becomes memory. Chidinma looked at Ifeanyi. Tears streamed down his face, but he did not speak. The river had taken his voice. The village pays the price. Back in Umudiala, the river overflowed violently. Homes were destroyed. Farmlands vanished. Livestock drowned. People ran to Agodinwe in terror. Appease the goddess, they begged. The priestess raised her hands. She hesitates, she said. And hesitation angers the river. A child was swept away. Then another. Panic turned into hysteria. This is your daughter's doing, villagers screamed at Obina. They dragged him toward the river. Ikema threw herself over him. Kill us if you must, she cried. But spare our child. The river paused. As if listening. Awakening of wrath. In the depths, Chidinma felt it. Pain. Fear. Rage. Her people were suffering. Because of her indecision. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever before. No more, she said, her voice echoing with authority not her own. She reached out. The invisible chains shattered. The crown slammed onto her head. The waters bowed. She rose, not swimming, not walking, but commanding the river itself. I am Chidinma, she declared. Born of woman. Crowned by water. And I will decide who pays. The river mothers recoiled. The throne cracked. For the first time in eternity, the river goddess defied the river's law. A goddess steps ashore. Lightning struck as Chidinma emerged from the river. Her body shimmered, wrapped in flowing water like royal cloth. Her eyes burned with sorrow and fury. She raised her hand. The flood stopped instantly. Villagers fell flat on their faces. Agodinwe dropped to her knees. My queen, she whispered, trembling. Chidinma's gaze searched the shore. Ifeanyi, she said. The river remained silent. Then, slowly, a body floated to the surface. Unmoving. The river had made its final statement. The body that floated toward the riverbank moved slowly, as if the water itself was reluctant to release it. Chidinma stepped forward. With every step she took, the river parted beneath her feet. Ikema recognized the rapper first. She screamed before anyone else could. My son, she wailed, not by blood, but by love. Chidinma knelt beside Ifeanyi's body. His skin was cold. His chest was still. The river had not just taken him. It had claimed him. For a moment, the goddess said nothing. The world held its breath. Then Chidinma lifted her face, and the sky darkened. The first judgment. Mary Oka, she said quietly, you have crossed a line. The river trembled. Agodinwe gasped. No goddess has ever judged the river itself, she whispered. Chidinma rose. You took him to break me, she said. Instead, you have awakened me. She raised her hand. The waters surged backward violently, exposing the riverbed, fish flapping helplessly, stones cracking, ancient symbols glowing beneath the mud. The villagers watched in terror. This is what you worshipped, Chidinma said, her voice echoing. A power that feeds on fear. She turned to the people. And you offered love as sacrifice. Her eyes locked on the elders. Your traditions are soaked in blood. The price of betrayal. Enz Okari crawled forward. Great one, he begged, We only followed what we were taught. Chidinma's voice softened, but only slightly. And you never questioned it. She pointed at Agodinwe. You knew I was human once. The priestess bowed deeply. Yes, she admitted. And that is why the river chose me, to prepare you. To imprison me, Chidinma corrected. The water beneath Agodinwe's feet turned dark. Chains of water wrapped around her ankles. You will serve, Chidinma said, but never again command. Agodinwe screamed as the river dragged her halfway under, binding her to eternal servitude. The village gasped. Justice had a new face. A mother's plea. Ekema crawled toward her daughter, tears blinding her. Bring him back, she begged. If you are truly a goddess, bring him back. Chidinma looked down at her mother. For the first time since emerging from the river, her eyes filled with tears. There are laws even gods cannot break, she whispered. Ekema clutched her wrapper. Then curse me, she cried. Not him. Chidinma turned away. The pain was too great. The choice of mercy. That night, Chidinma stood alone at the river bank. The river mothers appeared again, cautious now. The village must pay, they insisted. Flood them. Take their children. Restore balance. Chidinma clenched her fist. No, she said. I will not rule through terror. The river mothers hissed. Then you are weak. Chidinma faced them, her voice steady. Then I will be a weak goddess. She made a decree. No child of Umudiala would ever be taken by the river again. The waters stilled. Something ancient shifted. The last gift of love. At dawn, Chidinma returned to Ifoni's body. She placed her hand on his chest. Wake, she whispered, not as a lover, but as a queen. Light poured from her palm. The river screamed. The river mothers shrieked. The sky cracked open. Ifoni gasped. Air rushed into his lungs. The village erupted in screams and praise. But as Ifoni sat up, Chidinma stumbled. The glow around her dimmed. Agodinwe screamed from her watery prison. She has broken divine law. Chidinma smiled weakly. For love, she said. Ifoni held her. But her body was growing transparent. The cost of defiance. Chidinma looked at the village one last time. Remember me, she said softly. Not as a goddess who demanded blood, but as one who chose mercy. She kissed Ifoni's forehead. Then she stepped backward into the river. The waters closed gently over her. The glow vanished. The river became calm. Too calm. For 3 days after Chidinma disappeared into Mirioka, the river did not move. No ripple. No current. No whisper. It lay still like a body that had lost its spirit. The people of Umudiala knew something terrible, and something holy, had happened. A village without a river. Women came to fetch water and returned with tears in their eyes. The river is dead, they whispered. Fishermen cast their nets and pulled them back empty. Crops near the riverbank began to dry. Without the river, Umudiala began to wither. Ifoni sat by the riverbank every day, unmoving, his eyes fixed on the water that had both killed and spared him. Ekema sat beside him on the 4th day. She loved you more than power, she said quietly. Ifoni nodded, his voice hoarse. And the world punished her for it. The river speaks again. On the 7th night, as the moon rose full and bright, the river finally stirred. Slowly. Gently. A glow returned, but it was different now. Softer. Warmer. From the water emerged a figure. Not wrapped in shimmering power. Not crowned. Just a woman. Chidinma stepped onto the shore. Human. Mortal. Alive. Ekema screamed and ran to her. They collapsed into each other, sobbing. Ifeanyi stood frozen, afraid to believe. Chidinma looked at him and smiled, the same smile she had worn before destiny tore them apart. "I chose you," she said. The river's final decree. The water behind her rose one last time, forming the shapes of the river mothers. Their voices echoed, not angry now, but resigned. "She has broken our cycle," they said. "She has ended our hunger." The glow faded. The shapes dissolved. The Mirioka River flowed again, ordinary, obedient, harmless. The age of blood had ended. A new beginning. Chidinma and Ifeanyi married quietly. No drums. No sacrifices. Only laughter and tears. Chidinma never returned to the river alone. She became a healer instead, using wisdom gained from both worlds. Children born after her carried no marks of fear. And when elders spoke of the past, they spoke softly. Of a goddess who refused cruelty. Of a river that learned to let go. The story that remains. Years later, elders would tell the story to children gathered by the fire. "Remember," they would say, "power without love becomes hunger." And somewhere, deep beneath the flowing waters of Mirioka, a gentle current would stir, as if listening.